You are standing outside a townhouse on a street that has no reason to notice you. The door is black lacquered, the knocker is brass polished to a mirror finish, and the curtains in the front window are drawn against the January cold. The address is written on a folded scrap of paper in your coat pocket. A woman on the train from Preston gave it to you. Too much perfume, too few questions, and you told yourself that meant she was kind. The street looks like every other respectable street in Marylebone. Gas lamps, iron railings, a servant scrubbing a step 3 doors down. You breathe in coal smoke and horse dung and something sweet underneath, and you knock. Mrs. Vane receives you in a sitting room with a fire burning high enough to cost what you made in a week at the mill. She pours tea from a silver pot without asking if you want any. She is perhaps 50, with soft hands and the unhurried manner of someone who has never once been late because everything and everyone waits for her. She explains the arrangement the way a solicitor reads a will: clauses, not cruelties, room and board, a clothing allowance, a weekly sum of which the house takes 40%. She slides a card across the table. The debt you are here to clear, £14 and 6 shillings. Your mother's lodging arrears, her doctor's fees, the coal that kept her breathing through December. You have done the arithmetic 3 times on the train. You do it again while the tea goes cold in the cup. 4 months, maybe 3 if you are careful. Mrs. Vane produces a single page. You read it. You are one of the few who does. The language is dense in the way of documents written to be signed, not understood. It outlines your room, your meals, your percentage. What it does not outline clearly is who controls the expense column, how clothing and board are charged back against earnings, or what happens if illness interrupts your work. You ask about the clothing. Mrs. Vane smiles and says the house provides everything you need. You take that for an answer. The card with £14 and 6 shillings goes into your shoe, pressed flat against your heel. You sign. The house has 8 women and an architecture that rewards attention. The senior among them is Pearl, a composed woman from Liverpool who has been here 4 years and moves through rooms with the particular stillness of someone who stopped being surprised a long time ago. On your 3rd evening, she shows you the ledger Mrs. Vane keeps behind the parlor bar, a leather-bound thing with a copper clasp, entries in perfect copperplate. Names in 1 column, earnings in another, house expenses in a 3rd, the silk dress you were given the morning you arrived, £3 and 14 shillings entered against your account. The examination by the house doctor, 8 shillings, soap weekly, laundry weekly, the coal in your room. You are £3 in debt to the house before you have earned a single thing. Pearl explains this without bitterness, the way someone explains that it rains in winter. She keeps a small jar of cold cream hidden beneath a loose floorboard and lets no one borrow it. She goes to bed early and wakes before anyone else, and she watches you with the specific patience of a person watching someone else make the mistake she made. She never warns you. There is no warning that would help. You adapt faster than most. Your literacy becomes currency. You write letters for clients who require discretion, and Mrs. Vane charges separately for this service and gives you a cut. You are precise, contained, strategic. You send a postal order to your mother every fortnight, and you keep your own tally in the back of a small Psalms book. Amounts sent, amounts paid down on the ledger, what remains. The numbers move in your favor, slowly enough that you have to keep recalculating. Mrs. Vane notices your composure. She begins placing you with higher-paying clients, men who attend Parliament, who sit on boards of directors, who want to talk for an hour before anything else. She gives you 3 books and corrects 2 vowels. She does this gently, the way a tutor corrects a promising student, and it feels like advancement because it is advancement. You do not yet understand that every step up in this house is a step deeper into it. A client you know only as the colonel begins requesting you by name. His sessions pay triple rate. His tips are reliable as a salary. Mrs. Vane begins referring to you in front of others as her girl, and the possessive sits against your skin like a price tag you cannot read the back of. The other women stop resenting you and start watching you with the same look Pearl has. You understand it is not resentment, it is recognition. Month 4. By your Psalms book, you are clear. You dress carefully, take the card from your shoe, and go to Mrs. Vane. She opens a ledger. The number is not what you calculated. It is nearly double. A new dress. You don't recall requesting it, but the entry is dated and specific. Medical fees from a chest cold in November. A breakage charge for a ceramic jug that came off a shelf in a draft. None of it falsified. All of it permitted in language you read and signed. Mrs. Vane explains each item with the same calm she used to pour your first cup of tea, and when she is finished, she closes the ledger with a soft click and looks at you with something almost like sympathy. The new total is £11 and 4 shillings. You have been here 4 months. You are further in debt than when you arrived. You go back to your room and look at the card for a long time. The number on it means nothing anymore, and you know it. You put it back in your shoe anyway. You begin leaving written notes on Mrs. Vane's desk, formal, specific, undeniable, polite queries about particular expense entries, requests for review, line-by-line objections drafted in the clearest language you can produce. Mrs. Vane is amused. She begins treating you less like an asset to be managed and more like a partner to be cultivated. She offers you a small commission on new arrivals. Orientation, she calls it, helping them settle in. The first girl you orient has red hands from domestic service and asks a sharp question about the clothing charges on her very first evening. You tell her not to worry about it. You look somewhere past her left ear when you say it, at a point on the wallpaper that holds nothing. A letter arrives in April. It was delivered by hand to Mrs. Vane, who opened it before passing it on. It is from a neighbor in Preston, 6 weeks old. Your mother died in late February. She asked for you at the end, the neighbor writes. The letter smells of coal smoke, the specific coal smoke of home, which is different from London's, though you could not have told anyone why until this moment. Mrs. Vane says she didn't want to disrupt you. The colonel had been requesting you nightly. She holds the open letter out with an expression of practiced sympathy, the kind that acknowledges grief without making room for it. She does not reduce your debt by a single penny. The reason you came here is gone. The arithmetic that justified everything, the 4 months, the card in the shoe, the Psalms book, dissolves. And yet the debt is real. Your name is in the ledger. You have no references, no millwork to return to, no history you can put on paper without destroying yourself. You pack a bag at dawn, small, pathetically small, small enough that even you know you're not really going anywhere. Pearl watches from her doorway and says nothing. She has seen the bag before. Mrs. Vane is already awake. She's always already awake. She sits you down and explains, without raising her voice, that £11 outstanding constitutes a binding obligation under the contract you signed, that leaving without settling would be breach, that she would be within her rights to inform any future employer of your obligations and your character. She says this the way she says everything, calmly, with the fire crackling and the tea already poured, not chains, not locks, a ledger, a name written in copperplate. Paper is enough. Years move through the house like seasons. The debt fluctuates close to clear once, then recovering by Christmas, then close again. Girls arrive. Some leave. Pearl leaves one morning without the jar of cold cream, which means she planned it, which means she had somewhere to go. You are glad for her in a way that surprises you with its ferocity. The colonel grows old and stops coming. The house continues. You become what Pearl was, Honori Shina when Baum, the one who knows which entries to contest and which to absorb. The one new girls watch from across the room with an expression that takes you a moment to place until you place it. Mrs. Vane begins to cough. Through autumn it deepens. In winter she calls you to her room, which smells of lavender water and the specific warmth of a fire tended by someone who will not be cold. She says she has always regarded you as the daughter she never had. She has written a provision in her will. The provision you will inherit the house, the lease, the ledger, the furniture, the red velvet curtains, the brass knocker polished to a mirror, the outstanding debts owed by the current residents. You will inherit the machine and you will run it, and you will become Mrs. Vane. She dies in spring. The solicitor reads the will in the sitting room where tea was first poured, where you first sat across the table from a woman with soft hands and did your arithmetic on a card. Now you are on the other side of the table. There are 6 women in the house. Their combined outstanding balance is £43. One of them, you have noticed, keeps something folded flat inside her left shoe. You open the ledger. You could forgive the debt, set every column to 0. Open the black door and tell them to go. You have the power now to do the one thing that was never done for you. You sit with it, you run the numbers. The lease is expensive, coal costs money. The house needs staff, and the doctor makes house calls twice a month. And if the women leave, there is nothing. Not for them, not for the ones who would come after, not for you. You tell yourself this. You believe it the way you have believed every calculation you have ever made in this room. The arithmetic still works. If you hold it at the right angle, you take a fresh card, you write a number on it. A specific, real, almost manageable number. You slide it across the table to the young woman who arrived this morning with rough hands and a coat too thin for London and eyes that are still doing the calculation, still adding it up, still finding the sum that justifies the signature. She looks at the number, she folds the card, she puts it somewhere safe to remember what she came here for. In the decades that followed, social reform surveys recorded thousands of women in London's commercial houses. Most were listed not by name but by debt, by parish of origin, by cause of death. The machine didn't require cruelty, it only required someone to keep the ledger. If you want to see more, click the video on screen now.